Let's get busy.
Tuesday night, podcast night, guys. Back in the house for the next episode. I got two lovelies here. I'm sure we've crossed paths in the past, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know if we both swiped right on one of those sites, but hey, if we did, then I won't tell if you won't tell. Tyra and Brigid are in the house tonight, ladies. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with me.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
Both of you Brigid, you're a musician.
True.
And Tyra, you are a supporter, or what would be the word?
What's your deal, Tyra?
A shit stirrer.
Yeah.
I stir shit for the musicians.
But you are about the musician.
Absolutely. I always call myself a musician's advocate.
There you go. Well, let's get a little bit of background before we start shooting the shit. So start with you, Tyra. What's up with you?
Well, I was born a poor black child. No.
Not in a manger? You weren't in the manger?
You've come a long way.
That's right. No, I don't know. Where do you want me to start?
Well, I mean, Louisville all your life?
All of it, or just music? I don't know.
I'm from Louisville.
Okay.
Grew up between Manslick and Dixie Highway, so I'm a Shively girl.
Oh, wow.
And yes, lively Shively, yes. And then my father, he moved us when I was 12 years old over off Limekiln Lane in Glenview. So it was literally the opposite end of the spectrum. Between Brownsboro and River Road.
Right, gotcha.
And so it really was such a culture shock for me. And then, I went to a boarding school for equestrian. I rode horses, and I got into all the waspy shit.
Nothing but the best for my baby.
Girl.
I swear one day I'm going to write a young adult series about Tyra's teen years. Yeah. It's very dramatic.
And then, moved away for college, went to Tulane. I got kicked out of every single college I ever went to, and I went to about 4 of them.
Tulane,
University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, University of St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. Got kicked out of all of them. Yes.
What took you to the why?
I was dating. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You can ask questions too.
This is not my show. Sorry.
No, I don't have an ego. It's all about conversation. So,
I got kicked out of every college, but I loved. The reason I went there is I was dating a guy.
That's always.
It was dating a guy, and his mom and dad got divorced, and so she got custody of the house in the Virgin Islands, and she bought a parasailing operation, and so we both got kicked out of Tulane.
For doing what?
Well, those were the days when you could basically bring a 32-ounce drink. Going to class, there were probably three or 4 bars on the way to class. So by the time you got to class, you were sitting in the back of the class with a 32-ounce, big gulp of, rum and coke.
Okay.
And not only that, there's, Jazz Fest and there's Mardi Gras and all that kind of stuff. So there's an enormous amount of, if you don't have a lot of willpower.
Be honest, you're a bead collector, weren't you?
Yes. I have no qualms about that whatsoever.
I knew you so well.
Well, anyway, long story short is that his mom said, you all are kicked out, come down and live with me in St. Thomas, and you can help me run the parasailing operation as long as you all stay in school. And so we did, and then we ended up getting kicked out for doing some pretty nutty stuff that you have to work really hard.
I was going to say you've upped your bad girl,
yes.
So can you tell us what you could have done, might have done?
Okay, well, I can tell you a little bit. Our marine biology class was essentially this stoner guy who would take us down to the beach and just get stoned out of his mind, and then we would just scuba dive and snorkel and stuff, and he would go, "This is a starfish," and stuff. And so we decided that we would start selling mushrooms to all the tourists.
I could tell it.
Because they grew wild by all the Rastas that lived on the top of the mountain, and they would give it to us for one price. And we were such little entrepreneurs that during class we would sell it to all the people down on the beach. But we got caught doing that, and so we got kicked out. So there you go. And now this is on tape for all
I know, my story's going to be so boring.
Enlightening to you. Are you?
I feel like I know her really well.
Okay,
This is
all right.
mind blowing.
No.
So what's your deal now? Like, how did you get from selling mushrooms to tourists to being like this amazing music
I moved
manager?
back to Louisville when I was in my late 20s and got married and had kids, and always. My husband is a serial entrepreneur, and he's built and sold 8 or 10 companies, and so I always felt like it was kind of Planet Jeff, and I was Satellite Tyra, just kind of and after a while I started having a little bit of resentment.
The son? Did you?
He was the son. Yeah, I revolved around Planet Jeff, and so I started doing things where I felt like to keep my brain moving and not turning to mush. We had 3 children, and so. I started an event company about 20 years ago. My husband and I have been together 25 years, and about 4 or 5 years into it, I started an event company, just serendipitous. And then decided I just wanted to take on what I wanted to take on, because, working weddings and stuff like that, unless you really are taking on big weddings with a big crew, you're doing everything yourself and you are making minimum wage. So I started taking on just boutique things. And then about 8 or 10 years ago, I started working almost just solely with musicians. And I was in a band when I was a sophomore or a junior in high school. And so I loved being around musicians, and I was in a punk rock band, so I really didn't have to have an enormous amount of talent. I don't know if we played, our big gig was at the Red Barn in the late 80s. And we did a cover of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, basically screaming it.
Oh,
yeah,
I got excited for a minute.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah, it was, and shout out to Paul Zanitas, Dave Grubbs, John Zanitas, and Pepper Stebbins, who were my bandmates.
Nice.
And they made a little EP and sold it at, the local radio shops. And then they all went off to college and whatever. But ever since then, I've always gravitated towards the creative.
Right.
I went to Sullivan's, the only college I was never kicked out of. I went to Sullivan for culinary school.
You did. Yeah.
I did.
You aced it too.
I did. But anyway, I started working solely with artists, and I found my niche. And I felt like I could be an artist advocate. And then I met Brigid, 14 years?
Not even that. It's like 10 years, because it was right as I just started dating David.
Okay.
It's almost our 10-year anniversary. We should plan a trip.
We should.
I think it was July of 2009.
We should go to Paris.
Yes.
We'll always have Paris,
I'm in.
Brigid.
I know.
Don't mind me, ladies.
I know. You can, yeah.
I'm kidding.
But
It was 10 years ago, because it was the pool, and I was playing in Peter's band, and anyway.
But I would try and have my own events where I would hire musicians to showcase their talents. Like I had a couple summers in a row, Tyra Palooza, and I would do a showcase of different bands and invite all my friends and have 150 people, and had a great time doing it. And then started kind of getting hired by musicians. As a matter of fact, one of the jobs that I did was for Brigid recently, a couple years ago. What was it, last year or 2 years ago? Where you did your VIP event.
Oh, yeah,
and
the
you
CD
hired me
release party.
She had a CD release party at Headliners, and she wanted to do basically a VIP event upstairs at Headliners, and do kind of a meet and greet. And so I set all of that up for her, and then just started getting more and more jobs through that. And then she's always said, Tyra, you need to book me. You need to book me, and you're so good at it. And so she and another artist, Dave Earns, kind of strong-armed me one day, and I went, it does make sense. I am booking artists for my own events, and I know a lot of the venue owners because I've had events in those venues, and so it just makes sense for me to start a company. And my event company was called Twisted Events, and so I just turned that into Twisted Talent, because you're going to ask where the name Twisted. My actual real name is.
And you're a mind reader too. I mean, good God.
I'm sorry, I'm not giving the host enough time to ask questions.
She's very good.
Break it.
But
I'm strapped in.
My
Let's do it.
my maiden name is Twist, Tyra Twist.
So okay, so that name is real.
It's real.
Okay.
It is actually real. And all my friends when I was growing up, that's what they called me. That was my nickname, was Twisted.
Clearly.
Twisted Sister.
That makes sense now.
Shout out to Hunter Hill, who came up with that name.
Look at that.
Twisted Sister.
Oh, Twisted. The sister. Well, let's get your sister.
Yeah, mine's super
involved.
boring
Yeah.
now.
No, it's not.
I'm gonna have to make up something really, really exciting now.
You're a musician.
I'm a musician.
How long? Well, give me your history. I mean, Louisville, all your life, Louisville. Or
I was born in Louisville, and I went to Atherton and Highland, all the like classic Highland stuff. I got out when I was 17. I moved to New York and went to college. She was valedictorian. I was looking at that. Now she's a publicist too. Not that that's really good for music.
And graduated with an international baccalaureate degree.
I did.
Looks and brains at this table.
Oh, how sweet. No, well, that's funny because I played music my whole life and I knew that I was good at it, but I was also good at school. So I was like, you can't be a musician. Like, I think my dad was a bartender. My mom worked for the state. Like, it was my job in life to like go to college and get the degree and like jump a class, I guess. It's like, they never said that to me, but that's sort of like what I felt like. Okay, so I shouldn't be a musician because I knew better. So while I played music and did lots of theater and stuff, I never did that for a career. In fact, I moved to New York and then I kind of stopped. But then I started accompanying musical theater people, and I played in an Irish band. And then I was a producer for CBS News after I graduated. I went to NYU.
That's a cool part of her life.
It's a random thing. I was only 20 when I graduated from college, so I had
Clearly
this kind of weird
non-music thing.
Yeah, totally. I was like, I was pre-law, but I didn't want to go to grad school right away because I was too young. So I said, I'd interned at CBS. I loved film. I loved documentary. So I worked in documentary. It was, I did a lot of stuff for, like, I produced a ton of A&E biographies, History Channel stuff, Discovery Channel, TLC back before they got kind of too, like, crazy thrill ride. Actually, they were a little bit. I did one on, like, deaths on roller coasters at some point. but yeah, I don't know.
You were going to do When Animals Attack before Fox did.
Exactly.
That's you.
So, but then so I was sort of on that completely different career path in film and television. And then my mom got sick, and I was only 22, so I was like, okay. And it was breast cancer, and it was stage 3, and the doctors are like, yeah, maybe you should move home. So I did, because my boss was amazing at CBS. She actually was a breast cancer survivor. She said, I'll hold your job for you, go home, be with mom. So I moved back to Louisville, and while mom was undergoing therapy, I started playing music, like, for people. For real. It was actually a dare. Alan Downey, a bartender at Air Devil's Inn, was like, you have Sunday nights now. And I was like, what?
Were you there? Were you
That's
there
where
the other
she got
day?
her start.
I wasn't at the Save Radio, I think,
Yeah, it
on
was
Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
I didn't pop up. I sent some cash up with my friend,
Right.
but yeah, that's a side story of them fixing the bathrooms. I feel like they should have thought about it like 20 years ago, right? Anyway, I love Air Devils.
Yeah.
I literally grew up there. My dad bartended there all through the 90s, so I would go there after school.
Cool.
So I came back and started playing music and realized that I was making more playing music than I had been at CBS, so I never left. Mom got better too. She
that's good.
that was a kind of surprise, and then she and my dad would come out to shows. She actually just died like 6 months ago of a different kind of cancer, but like she got a good like 20 years more than expected.
Good for her.
So
Good for her.
yeah, it was anyway, I've been playing music ever since. So it's been 2001. I moved back here right before September 11th, although I was up there September 11th, but I moved back to Louisville kind of a couple weeks before then, and have been playing music ever since. So Tyra's a pal. I met her because I was hired gun at one of her parties, and
That's where we met. Peter Sears.
So you all met at a...
Right,
at a
Peter
Twisted
Searcy
event.
was a friend of mine. I used to go see him at Tooligans play,
badass,
squirrel bait.
Yeah,
and he's a couple years younger than me, and so I used to think this young whippersnapper was really cool, and I'd go see him, and so I've known him forever. And then I asked him to come play a party of mine, a pool party with, what do we have, maybe 75, 80 people
yeah, it was
or something.
small. It was for that cheese and honey thing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It was,
I was just like, I'm at a really fancy house.
Yeah.
Playing in a band.
And so Brigid came. He said, do you mind if I bring my friend Brigid? She's a great accompanist. And I said, absolutely. The more the merrier. More musicians, the merrier. And so she came. And the funny thing is that I felt like we had known each other for 100 years.
Right away.
Like
Totally.
absolute kindred spirits. And the thing that clinched it was she was in this very pretty party dress, and we have a 36-foot slide that goes down into a pool. It's on the we have a hill, and we built this slide into the side of the hill that goes into the pool.
It's like a Disney ride.
Yeah, it's my husband's a 14-year-old child, and so we did it for him. Even though I have 3 children, we did it for him.
We did it, yeah.
And
he owns it, too.
yes,
Come on.
and so, we own it.
Well, that he's a kid.
Yeah, he owns the fact that he's a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I got it.
So anyway, I was like,
Yeah, we're on fire tonight.
yeah. Like, don't you? So anyway, Brigid at the end of the party says, I've been wanting to go down that slide all night. Do you mind if I do it? And I was like, sure, I'll get you a bathing suit. And she's like, no, I'll just go down. So she goes down in this party dress and splashes in and I was like, I love this girl. I'm going to be best friends with her forever.
I like her already.
And we kind of are.
I know you started reading my blog. I remember you sent me this email that was I had written in this. I think I was blogging every day that year. It was some sort of thing, and I was talking about what I was reading. It was Pillars of the Earth. You're like, I'm reading that too. Let's have a lunch. And then by the end of lunch, you were like, do you want to go to the Bahamas with me next week?
Yeah.
I was like,
and you did.
Yeah. And yeah, my husband's like, what are you doing? He wasn't my husband then. He
Boyfriend
was just,
then.
Yeah, he was just my boyfriend.
And then you were trying to.
Anyway, now
you were
we're
trying to
pals.
get. I remember when we were sitting on the beach in front of Banana Bay, and you're like, "Okay, we're gonna write a song." You know, and then we just kept drinking, and we never wrote the song. So I'm still waiting to write the song.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be someone's
I didn't know
muse.
that. Let's do it.
So I'm forcing myself to be a muse. Like,
It's on.
does anybody need a muse? I mean, come on.
Yeah, now you got proof. You got to hold her to
That's
it.
my bucket list, to be a muse.
Yes.
Doing my little research, you play more than 10 instruments.
Oh, right. I play a lot of
How many?
instruments.
I'm trying to think. What are those 10 instruments? I mean, is there?
Yeah.
You're right.
So I started with piano, which people ask me all the time. What do you start with? Start with piano. It's got all the notes. Let's
Right.
learn them all. So I started with piano because we had one, and then I learned guitar because my dad brought one home. I think he lost a bet, or he won a bet, and someone couldn't pay him, so he brought the guitar home. And I played cello, and then from then things with strings made sense to me. But I had the kind of theory background from piano, so anything with strings I can play. I wouldn't necessarily volunteer to play them all in your band, but there are about 10 that I can play really well. So musical saw is the kind of weird one, and accordion. So
She can play the
it's
saw.
just a saw.
Have you ever
Are you
seen her
serious?
play?
No, I've not seen. Well, not the saw.
I know, now I
but
wish I brought
think
it.
I've seen her. I've seen you play. But
It's
no, I
incredible.
definitely
Yeah,
haven't seen
the saws. Well, it's not something that I do the whole night because it's
Yeah.
kind of annoying. Like Steve and I just put out
It's your parlor trick.
Yeah, it's a parlor trick, exactly. A little Christmas novelty free EP that's like Christmas songs played on the musical saw. It's just a hand saw with a
Yeah.
violin bow.
But wait a minute, that was put out kind of ironically, but then everybody started wanting it. Like she put out an entire Christmas, album, like 4 songs or something, EP, just playing the saw.
Right.
And then everyone was like, I need this, I need this. And she was like, I put it out as kind of a joke.
It's funny, yeah. So I do play a lot of instruments, a lot of weird ones, a lot of useful ones. But that's kind of how I've made a living playing music all this time because I can hang in other people's bands. So like, there's not a lot of money and health insurance in like just playing your own original singer-songwriter stuff. I do fine when I perform it, but like again, health insurance. So I've spent many years, like when I'm at Tyra, I was playing keyboards for Peter Searcy. I'm a lot of people's like substitute phone calls too. Like somebody can't make it, Brigid can probably play that part, so we'll call
That's
it.
not a bad thing.
It's great. I love it. I actually really love being a sideman. I mean, I love owning the stage and being up front, but there's no
I mean,
pressure.
that's the equivalent of a session.
Yeah, exactly.
Session player.
I actually do a lot of
Yeah,
session
she
work.
does.
I used to go to Nashville a lot. In the late 2000s, I spent 3 or 4 days a week in Nashville playing accordion sessions for people. And now I don't do as many, but I do them remote. So I do some accordion and saw. Actually, I did 3 saw tracks last week for someone in Nashville and emailed them down.
Well,
So.
actually, you bring up a good point that I don't think I've really got into deep conversations with people about. But when you, in this case, a session musician playing a part, the technology is there. With the right technology, you don't need to be there.
Yeah.
And I mean, is it?
It's changed things.
Yeah.
You can get much better players who don't live near you. You can get like the weird instrument thing. Like if you Google musical saw session player, I'm the first thing that comes up because I don't know that anyone in Nashville. There are people who play it, but I have a good ear, and I can read music, and I'm classically trained, so I can play a part, and that goes a long way. So yeah, it's cool now. Some producers still like to kind of be there and like hang the tapestries and get the vibe of the studio. That's
Fair enough.
I mean, I've done
Light
plenty
the
of session works like
candles.
that, but honestly, I like the people who just like say they trust the musician,
Oh,
and,
yeah,
and I'm
of
like
course.
that too with my band. Like when I hire players, I hire the people who play the instruments and know music, and then I don't
Right.
tell them how to do their job. So
Well, I think she's being slightly humble because I just have to brag on her for a minute. Is
Bring it.
the time that I went down to the Bahamas with her, there was a a guy down there named Tim Tibbetts, and he actually is a Bahamian, but he lived in Canada for a really long time and was a musician, and he won the Juno Award for Best Artist of the Year, which is basically like the Grammy,
Right,
Best Artist of the Year here. And so he became a chef eventually and then moved back to the Bahamas where we lived and started a restaurant. And when I told him that I was going to bring Brigid down, he said, "Oh my gosh, I would love to get my guitar out and, play some of my originals. And can I come over and practice with her?" And he came over and he was like trying to tell her, "Okay, well, it's this. And she goes, just play it.
Right.
Because she's so smart with chord theory that she knows if you're going to play this chord, then the next, chord
Right.
is going to be that.
Right. Yeah.
And she played along with him, accompanied him without ever hearing any of his original songs, and he was absolutely blown away. And I was blown away too. And I was like, look at my amazing friend.
You're so nice.
The truth is, the real musicians can pull that off.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I've heard those stories, and just to say, well, it's in the key of this and
go. Yeah, and that's something that it took me a really long time to realize was unusual. Partly, and I don't know if we're gonna circle around about how we hate men, but like
Today I do. I had a really shitty day.
we're having a bad men in business thing. We don't really hate men. We're married to men. I have 2 sons. Tyra has 1 son.
Well, I want to
but, like,
definitely, because I'm going to, towards the end of this conversation,
Yeah.
I want to take a few minutes because there was a internet post on some dude who posted, and it went viral on his take on the how to find the.
Oh, I saw that. He had a list.
Yeah, I want to bring it up, and I'm going to walk
must be
the.
skinny, must eat a salad, must whatever. Yes, child.
I want to I want to see I want to at least get the visual reactions when I
hilarious.
read these.
I have an empty glass.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
it could
really.
be
And,
fun.
we can take 5 or take 2. And
I
get
wasn't
them.
even going that far.
Yeah, but anyway.
Oh wait, we prepaid for a drink.
We did. Where is it? No, I was just thinking how I played with a lot.
Heather.
I was just thinking about how I had this skill and no one told me that it was unique. Like I played with tons of men and they kind of, some of them, not all of them did, but a lot of them just sort of kept me down, not realizing that by the time I got to Nashville and realized that I actually was good at music, like above average, I was sort of pissed off at the people I played with before who had just used my skills and not and kind of said, "Oh, it's cute that you sing too," instead of like, "Wow, that's really impressive that you can do chord theory or write charts and stuff." So, like,
It's cute that
yeah,
you sing.
yeah. Oh my gosh, you have no idea how many.
I just want her to tell the story about how she was on that country music, basically Star Search show, and she was so flipping good. Go ahead, say that.
Oh, so flipping. I think I got pulled on for the finals as kind of to be the weirdo. It was Nashville Star.
Okay.
And,
How long ago was this?
10 years, maybe?
Okay.
Late 2000s.
right.
And my friend dragged me to the audition. I didn't know what it was because I didn't have cable. And it was on, I think, USA.
I watched it.
Yeah, it was like American Idol for country music, Nashville Star. So,
Oh, yeah, this is network TV.
yeah. It was,
Yeah,
it was,
she
a
was
big
on
deal.
Network
It was on
TV.
10 seasons. In fact, the person sitting next to me, I made it to the
Yeah,
finals.
I know yeah.
Do you know who I'm going to say? So I walked in. This is funny. I keep thinking I should tweet this, but it sounds like I'm just name dropping. But it's just an interesting story. So I made it to the top 50, which was mind blowing. I walked in and they had you sing from this list of 50 songs I'd never heard because I wasn't into pop country. So I sang the Hank Williams song I knew, and then they called me and said,
Well
"We
done.
need you in Nashville for the semifinals." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I get there, and the producers knew, like, I played the accordion. I was an indie person. You could tell I was going to be cast in, like, this particular role as opposed to, like, the cowboy hat and such. The person sitting next to me when we were doing, like, the top 5 or something was Casey Musgraves. She was 18. She said she was 18. I don't know if she was. But we sat there and talked about music and stuff, and she was,
wow.
yeah, so and now look at her now. She was at the Oscars a couple nights ago. So, and she's great, too, because she's able to finally, I think, 2019, be in a place where she doesn't have to play the role that she ended up being, I think, on the show. I don't know if she actually was not, but she was pulled on because she had a parents in the industry or something. She's great. I love her. But it was just an interesting experience. And but what I guess what Tyra was trying to get me to say is that I went in and to the rehearsal, they only give you 5 minutes to rehearse your song. And they were like, oh, wait, you know music. And then they ended up calling me. I didn't make the top 10 to be on the actual show, but the band called me to be in the house band for a while.
So she ended up playing in the house band for the rest of the show.
Rest of the show.
Yeah.
Because she's so talented.
It was funny. So from that, actually, I realized that I really love doing session work in Nashville. And that's actually how I started doing a ton of session work. And then the night of the show was how I ran into Shannon. And we're pals.
Shannon Lawson,
who's I ran into him completely randomly, and we'd met before, and suddenly he was actually really great connection, and because he did session stuff all the time. So anyway, that's my story.
So how did that? You were getting ready to bash men. And then, how did
I don't want to bash men. I just want to bash the wrong men or the right men.
Exactly. No, it's just like it's 2019, and there's all kinds. We've like for thousands of years, there's been this inequality, and we know that, and it's just like
it's the good old boys.
Right? It,
Still.
And it's every industry. It's not,
is it every industry still? Or genre?
Yeah.
I don't I'm sure country for sure.
It's so bad in country. Yeah. They just, and radio play. And that goes back to record labels. And that goes back to just like rich people giving their money to a bunch of white men. And, I'm married to a white man. I have 2 white men as children. I love all men. I love all women. But like, you got to make an effort to.
You do.
I do. I love everybody. But I don't know. It's just like at this point, like stop pitting people against each other and make an effort to be equal. And come on, like
to digress a little bit, the internet post we were talking about. That's how I understand like the good old boys see talent. That's how they want their talent, and we can talk about that.
They want them skinny and blonde and pretty and
100%.
Makeup and all this.
And
plus now it's.
And I'm not putting those girls down because I mean
I'm sure there's
everybody
still talent there.
Everybody has their niche in this world, and everybody needs to be the best blonde or the best brunette or the best heavyset girl or skinny girl that they can be. But I think that men have this, like you said, they have this Playboy bunny version of what they want all of the women to be. And if you don't fit that in the industry, then you're dismissed. You're demeaned. You're cast to the
plan
side.
B, you're the,
right.
And by both sexes, not just by
and
men.
let me tell you something. My partner, I've got 2 partners, Barry Thomas and Dave Ernst, in a small company called Small Batch Entertainment, and that I have on the side. That's kind of, it's a work in progress type thing, and we have a gal. A woman. See, I'm still
abroad,
I don't mind calling a girl a chick or something like that because she's like, it's a woman.
I know, I'm like,
but anyway, her name is Chelsea Nolan, and she is one of the most incredibly talented Kentucky women that I know, and she's going to be on our show on March 17th at Mazza Pie. And she is a curvy gal, and
where's that at? Where's it at?
Mazza Pie. It's in Anchorage. It's a once a month radio show that we do.
Is that on a week?
Sundays. Sundays, 5:30.
Keep me in the loop. I think I want to attend that.
You should come out and do a live remote.
I can do that.
I think you should. March 17th.
Okay, we'll talk.
We have Derek Spencer and Chelsea Nolan on the next show, but Chelsea Nolan is breaking through barriers because she is a badass chick. She reminds me a little bit of kind of like a Gretchen Wilson, but you know what I mean? Like, she don't take no shit from nobody. And she's young, and she's curvy, and she's smart, and she's talented. And I feel like she is, just as valid as Miranda Lambert, who's blonde and pretty and, talented. So I think everybody just needs to be the best person they can be.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing that I've seen in the industry is that really irritates me, aside from the fact that it's just hard for a woman to get a leg up. And this isn't me being sour grapes. Like, I've done tons of things in my career that plenty of my male counterparts have not done. But as men grow older and then tour, they can grow like a beard and put on 30 pounds and wear like a hoodie and show up, and it's fine.
They're schlubby. They're very schlubby.
It's fine. Like, did you see that one picture of Ed Sheeran with Beyonce? It was just like so.
She was glam, and he was just like
what was he wearing?
Could you imagine if she showed up in like sweatpants with no makeup, and she would have gotten torn to absolute shreds.
Right.
And that's where I'm going.
He took a little bit of grief.
He should have.
As he should have.
Because
he's around Queen Bee. I mean, come not.
But did he, in fairness, I do recall that moment or that incident, but did he get the memo that it was supposed to be like,
Maybe not. Maybe his
So
publicist
it doesn't
didn't
matter.
tell him.
So maybe that was a bad example of that. But I see it on the road all the time. Like I tour all the time, and it's not just that wardrobe. It's like the attitude that, oh, this is an older man. He must have great stories and wise advice to tell. And then when a woman goes on, particularly if she's not dyeing her hair and super skinny, they're like, oh, that's just sad. Why isn't she home? And I tell you what,
why isn't she home?
no, I get that. I get how can you?
How could she get on stage looking like
Who the
that?
fuck does that still?
I tell you how many
God,
people,
man.
at least once a night on a tour, somebody asks me how I can possibly be away from my children. My husband travels for work 4 days a week. He's never been asked that question.
No.
And these are the
It's
things
still-
that drive me insane. So.
Well, and then we get into all the technical stuff, like when you go to a show and you start putting all of your gear together, and men are like, do you need help with that, dear? Do you,
Oh, is that? Yeah. Do you know how
is
that
it
works?
too heavy for you to carry? And she's like, I've been doing this for 20-something years.
But
dude.
for the first 15 years, I would say, oh, thanks. And I would do kind of, that's why I'm saying it's 2019, it's over. Like, I will tell you, stop telling me how to plug in my keyboard. I've owned one for 25 years.
But you know, at some point, you should just say, you know what? Let them do it. I'll just go have a drink. Or two. Yeah, come on, Tyra. Let's go get a drink. Don't
Right,
put
and then
don't
just
put
move
my
it
shit
later.
together. Yeah.
So we're gonna go get a drink and you carry on.
Yeah. That's a good
Do you
point.
need one?
I actually do.
Yeah.
The ladies are back at it.
Back with the cocktail.
Yeah.
We got the last of the happy hour pricing.
That's right. Yeah.
Cheers.
Good job,
Cheers.
Tyra.
They are working on a service industry night here, and
On Tuesdays.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
great.
that's great. Yeah. That's a hard business.
I know. I love our service industry workers. It's amazing.
yeah, a lot
I
of.
say our like it's you know,
No, I mean,
Well, you're in the business, so.
I am a little bit.
yeah, you support it, you get it.
Completely. Yeah.
You understand where they're coming from, what they're trying to do.
Hard workers.
Well, let's stay with venues because
Yeah.
one of the things that with my podcast, I interview or talk to a lot of musicians, and I'll get hit with messages or whatever from bands or music acts who are wanting to know how they can get into venues. Depending on who you talk to, the venue has either said it or gives the impression. What can you bring to this night? How
Sure.
many people? I mean, you got a support. You got an audience. Help me understand right now in this day and age in Louisville.
Okay.
What is the general mindset on? I mean, we got our favorite bands that you can go to at I'll name my go-to places: the Levee, New Direction.
Certainly.
And there's those bands are killing it with an audience, but the bands that are wanting to break into that scene. What's the advice? Or
My advice?
Yeah.
Well, I think I need to start by saying a few things about the Louisville market right now. I grew up, like I said, in Louisville in the 80s, and I think in the 80s there was an enormous amount of original bands and singer-songwriters that came out of Louisville. Since then, we've had a few, My Morning Jacket and, out of Bowling Green, Cage the Elephant and stuff like that. But for a really long time, I don't think we focused on the arts in Louisville. And Austin, I would love for us to become an Austin. Austin is known as music venue.
As in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Austin, Texas is known as the music venue capital of the world, and that's because they have more music
know that.
venues per capita than anywhere else in the entire
I
world.
didn't know that.
The government supports them tremendously
Yes.
too. There's actually a Texas music commissioner.
Right.
It's like a
Really?
Yes.
a governor appointed job.
And so you have
I want you to let her
Yeah.
talk, but I want you to
Yeah.
elaborate on that. But
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
But I mean, they have an enormous amount of festivals down there
Yeah,
that are
that's
like
right.
South
They
by
have the-
Southwest and
There's that annual Austin. What is that?
Austin Music Festival,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
that's
I mean,
huge.
there's just
Yeah.
so much. Now, in the last, I'd say 5 to 8 years, we have had a little bit of a renaissance here in Louisville, and it's a slow creep, but you can feel something in the air with singer-songwriters and original music, and I have a theory about that, and that's because Louisville notoriously was a vacation destination for 2 weeks a year, and it was during Derby. Because we've become an emerging foodie destination, and because we've become...
We're a badass food town.
Yes, hell yeah, we are. I mean, come on. We have I think it's the third rated culinary school in the nation,
Right,
and we are
yes,
pumping
right,
out
right.
amazing, people to work in restaurants who are then going on to open their own restaurants. And so, and by the way, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think we have the number 3 city for highest independently owned restaurants per capita.
Something like, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Definitely in the top 10 or what.
Right. And so because we're such a foodie city, and food Top Chef, is an oncurring filming here, or they filmed here. It's on the air right now. We're emerging very quickly. Bourbon tourism has become year-round.
As I say, you bet the beverage, we're known for that too.
So the hospitality industry is absolutely desperate for very high-level entertainers. Okay, so the entertainers that were working on projects 5 to 8 years ago, and were kind of heard opportunity knocking, and were prepared to take advantage of that, have started to make a full-time living as a musician, and that's what I'd love to see here in Louisville, is that we can actually start paying our artists to work full time here. Right. And it's a valid industry. And I want to be an advocate for that. I mean, I won't name names, but when I started, booking, I was absolutely appalled at what they would pay really amazing singer-songwriters and artists.
Still happening that way.
Well, and I'm telling you, I'm trying to change that. Venue by venue.
She's been doing a great job of it too.
Well,
yeah,
we appreciate.
And
I just stopped playing around town.
And there's let's just put it this way, I've spoken to many venues who have called me and said, I'd love to book a solo artist on a Saturday night here, and I said, great, what's your budget? And they said, $100, $150. I go, for an hour?
Yeah.
No, for a 3 or 4 hour set. I'm like, are you
bring your own PA?
I go, so basically, I call that
sound guy and all this shit.
So you know what that's going to buy in Louisville is I call it Sally's next door neighbor's kid. You're going to get some
totally have good students to recommend for that.
right. You're going to get some kid doing that, and that's not really where we want our hospitality industry to go. We want to raise the bar for the hospitality industry and have the entertainment for that full time tourism here.
Yeah.
But that venue is, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of the go-to or a good opportunity for that said musician who, is trying to find
Those musicians.
Or do they still have this mindset?
Well, this is what pisses me off about the
Don't take
musicians
it.
is they're kicking themselves or they're shooting themselves in their own foot.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is they're bringing down the pay structure for the entire industry by taking $100 to play for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And be ignored and heckled
And be ignored
not
and be,
respected.
and be a jukebox.
Right.
And so what I've done is I went into these industries and I've
You can't take it.
No, hell no. I
definitely.
wouldn't let her take that. Trust
because
me,
you're
son.
not only, obviously, to your point, you're not only you're doing yourself a disservice to yourself, your fellow musicians
Absolutely.
who are at your level.
Exactly. There's no way would I work.
I feel like that that they need to have their confidence levels raised a little bit, and they need to say I'm worth far more than this.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're
and-
not paying for
and-
the 3 hours. You're
and
paying for the 30 years of
Turn
training.
down the gig, even though you need that $100 for the tire that broke down the other day or whatever.
Yeah.
Like in the long run, it will play out to where if you hold. And so right now, I got several venues. I feel like it was a really good victory on my part, where I got those venues to stop paying $100 and $150, and now they're paying for a solo artist $250 to $300, and that's huge for a night for a solo artist.
It's great.
Yeah,
you can pay a
solo.
babysitter. You can
Yeah, you can buy groceries and pay your
Yeah, it's-
rent, and
Because there are more than I've come to find out that there's a lot of musicians that are doing this full time.
they need to be doing this
Yeah.
full time, because if we want to become an Austin,
Yeah.
then we need to have full time artists here, and I think we could become this really amazing hospitality city. I mean, we're known as imagination, whatever. What are we known?
Possibility.
Impossible. What are we known as? Shit, I don't know.
Possibility City, yeah.
Possibility City. Is it really?
That's what it was at some point. I don't know if they've got a new marketing campaign.
Oh,
going on.
no, I always
Works
thought.
for me.
Possibility City.
Yeah. So
But it's true. I mean,
nothing's impossible here, and
You
so
can't forget the arts. when you're talking about tourism.
Arts. Now, there's a difference between arts and jukebox.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
why it's called arts and entertainment,
Yeah,
right?
and-
There's an and
Yeah,
as well.
and
Okay, child, are you dissing my cover band people? Because I love me some
no,
cover
I
band.
do. I love my cover band.
But there's a difference.
Groups and friends.
And
But
that's-
my thing is that every now and then, I would like to walk into a venue and not know the performer, not know the music, but feel it.
Oh, I love you.
Yeah, that's great.
To me, we don't have.
You're the
enough-
audience that we
Well,
need.
No, we don't have enough, and I've said this. We don't have enough venues that give
Oh my God.
original
Venues.
artists a
Child,
chance.
I have
We don't.
threatened for 2 years now to open a venue because I am
Don't do it.
so. She keeps going. You're just going to make yourself
Buying
a job.
Yeah. But it's true. The venues in this town, if they want to be
But I
taken,
can book whoever I
There's
want.
some that are trying to go that route, but
they are. They don't realize you need a sound system. You can't be asking every band to bring in their own
Well,
sound
and that's
system.
the thing is that, I keep telling people, if you'd invest, a few $1,000s in a decent PA system and, some lights,
Everything would change.
everything would change because these artists that have to, schlub in
all right.
And plus,
all of this PA system and lighting and everything, you could literally pay them a couple $100 less a night
Yeah.
and make your money back.
not to mention that system would be designed for the city. And that's the difference between Austin and Nashville. You go into any venue in those cities, and they have PA systems that are designed for that space.
Plug and play.
Yeah.
Plug and play.
I mean-
it's great for everybody. And the venues here are missing that. And it's because we're not branded as a music
like-
city.
It's getting better.
Lucas Nelson and Promise of the Real, they're from the Austin area, and they are a perfect example of people who grew up in that Austin area. And now, yes, his daddy was, Willie Nelson, and he went on the road with
Yeah,
him.
they all are.
But he still goes back to all these small venues, and he plays in them, and it's literally plug and play because all the venues that he plays at, even the smaller ones, have amazing PA systems that are good enough for Lucas Nelson, Promise of the Real.
And that's what we talk about support. To go back to the Texas Music Commissioner, it's not just one person that's supporting it. It's not just a Tyra Amrein here from Twisted Talent that decides that the city should be good. It's that there's support from the community, there's support from the government, and the musicians support each other. So when you have something called a Texas Music Commissioner, which everybody just go Google that right now, it's actually a government-supported job. I don't know if it's still Casey. Somebody I met at South by Southwest years ago. What happens is when a conference comes to Austin or anywhere in Texas, they're given a list of local musicians that they should hire for Tuesday afternoon. So the musicians get paid, they get exposure. Let's go back to they also get paid. I mean, the conference people want to have local flair.
We don't have that kind of a.
We don't.
No, I know
We
have,
should.
Don't we have?
We need to
Tourism.
raise-
Don't we have
There's
that?
ideas. People want that,
but
but it's
not
not-
someone who is.
In charge of that.
Okay.
It's also it goes to healthcare too. If we're going to get really political, those musicians get healthcare, and if you go to Nashville, there's health insurance vibes. There's group plans
Do
available.
you think
to
if
these
I called Mayor
musicians.
Fisher, he'd make me a commissioner?
He would listen to.
All right.
You have a way of getting people to listen to you. Which is, if we're going to wrap this up in a beautiful way, this is why Tyra is so good at this job, and why I'm so thrilled that she's doing it. Is because as an artist, I cannot say the things that Tyra can say, because they either sound like sour grapes, or I'm just going to stop there. They sound like sour grapes, and that's not it. I cannot be supportive in the way that I want to be supportive of my career or my friends' careers, or just people who I happen to adore careers. But Tyra can, because to her, it's not about not getting a gig. I don't care if I get a gig or not. Like I just want to play music, and and to go out to anyone listening, if you don't just want to play music, then get out of this business. You have to just want to
No,
do
but
it.
I really-
Tyra has the ability to say things, and
Thank
people
you.
listen.
Well, and I'm just a big mouth.
Well, that's it. It's the confidence and it's the respect that you have from the community,
Thank
and
you.
your intelligence and ability to form a sentence. Like it seems like it shouldn't be that much,
Forming
but
sentences.
I know
Oh
it
my
seems like it
God.
shouldn't be. That.
After 3 drinks, I can
She
form
can
a
have a
sentence.
drink and form a sentence.
What?
You'd be surprised where that is, my friend. But really, we need advocates like that. And
Thank you.
this city's been missing it. So maybe it's not
Yes.
the music commissioner. Maybe it's the Tyra Amrein. Maybe it's the somebody
know.
coming in and saying, you know what? Nobody's organized here. We need to get organized.
Absolutely.
And make this real, because you're right.
Well, I want working musicians here who are full-time working musicians, and I think that raises the bar of the hospitality industry.
Now, what you're doing. There's several other people, groups that are doing the same. I'm curious. Do you interact with any of those people?
Who are those people? I'm sorry. Who are they?
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, fair
No,
enough.
honestly, I feel like I'm on an island because I've always kind of like,
Well, my thing
danced
to
to
me-
my own drummer, so to speak.
It would
I don't know.
to me, I would think it would benefit the occasional get together, just say, hey, we're all trying to take care of,
But
our
totally.
people.
Yes, and
let's keep,
Let's work
this is
together.
the bar here. What's the, the standing op,
Right.
what's SOP, standing operating.
Yep.
You come up with the baseline of, this is what we have to do.
Here's the deal that I love about Louisville is that the people who manage and book are incredibly competitive because there's a very small pie to be had, and they are cutthroat at it. I've always thought about myself as I'm not some, Mother Teresa of the music world, but
Your mother, Tyra.
That's right, bitch. I don't want anybody. I'm loyal to a fault. If I take you on, I will. It's like we'll go to the mats.
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of people in this town who have done the booking for years and years and years, it's incredibly cutthroat. And and Louisville, the musicians aren't cutthroat.
No.
I was speaking about it before, jokingly, but musicians in Louisville are incredibly incestuous. Everybody's in everybody's band. When I go see a band that I've booked, like 3 band members from 6 other bands or whatever have shown up to see that band.
Or support or get up and
jump
jam.
on
Right,
stage. Yeah. So the bands and the musicians are incredibly supportive of each other.
That's a good point,
It's the management of those bands that are kind of cutthroat because there's just not enough money to go around.
And this is what I keep telling Tyra is that she doesn't need them; they need her. It's true.
We just had this big old conversation.
And it's a bunch of bands who need to remember that first they should learn and do a lot of that work themselves, but they need to remember that if Tyra takes them on, then she's doing the grunt work so that they can play music. And I think that's why Tyra is so amazing, is that she is, and she loves the grunt work. To me, I can't stand it when I get up at 7 a.m. and start doing emails about booking, and then I make a graphic, and then I post a Facebook event, and then by midnight I've answered 42 emails.
You still blog.
She does.
I do blog. I haven't blogged as much because I've been taking
therapy.
It is my therapy. I've been taking on some more volunteer roles, trying to do a new, a very old show, kind of helping out volunteer stuff. I need to get back to it because I'm a crazy person now.
I know.
But in general, I'm so thrilled that Tyra has started doing this because, I can book my own shows. I have booked my own shows for 20 years, but it would be a lot nicer if I could play more music and make more art, and it would be better for the community. Not me, but if every musician could make more art, and we could all work together in a more beautiful way, symbiotic relationship rather than, us doing emails all day. And Tyra just
I don't mind
looking
doing
at
emails all day.
She doesn't. She's great at it.
But somebody like you, though, Brigid, and I say this all due respect,
Ooh, I'm excited.
you don't have nothing left to prove in this town. And
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned,
She's an icon.
No,
thank you.
you've got status. You've earned it. You've got respect from your peers. So
Thanks.
it's
I got to remember stuff like this because
I know.
we still all have our down ones. I've done a ton in this town, and this is the thing. Like I mentioned earlier, working with people who let me forget that or didn't tell me that it mattered. And so I'm going to Europe in 6 weeks to do a 2-week tour, and half
Like
my
her
shows.
12th or 14th tour
serious?
of Europe.
Yeah, it's my 12th.
I went on tour with her twice.
2010. Yeah.
to Europe.
Yes. To Scotland and Paris.
So
Yeah.
are you her official man? Are we? What is going on?
I don't know.
I
We're
know, we're
friends.
we're pals.
We're buddies.
And then we're like, we can't work together because we're friends. So,
Yeah.
but then
Okay.
sometimes she's like, hey, I've got a gig, and I'm like, that's cool, man, no
okay.
big deal. I know we actually just talked about this, so we'll let you know next time. We'll be back next week. I assume we're on every week now,
yeah,
right?
we have to be on every week now.
We can make it happen. We do. I do think it's healthy for this type of conversation because this will evolve. Will continue to evolve because the music scene's evolving. So I do think it's healthy to be do some type of recurring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I'd love to.
It
come back
really
and
is, and
see-
it's going fast.
I'd love to see what where she is in 3 months. I was going to say 6, but no, it's 3 months for Tyra.
yeah.
I'm not saying book her now, but I am thrilled that she's doing this. I feel like it's what's been missing is somebody to just pull it together,
I think there's. I know of other people trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It's a lot of grunt work. It's a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
is.
different stuff.
Well,
and
I can tell you that I have the time and I have the inclination.
She's honest.
Like I said, I have 3 kids, and 2 of them are 21 and 23. They go to U of L. I have a 16-year-old at home that's getting ready to drive, and so I kind of said, I need to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, and so I just.
And your husband supports you.
Husband supports me amazingly,
Even
and
though
so
it still revolves around him.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do more artist development, and I just have to give a plug to Mojo Thunder, who's the new band that I love.
Yeah, I know them.
They're playing on Friday night at Diamonds, and we booked them there. And I'm telling you, mark my words, this band will be on every summer festival.
It's like one of the musicians there. His son works with my daughter.
Okay.
So he's
Love it.
talked about it.
These
So I'm
kids
like,
are like 24, 25 years old, and original music, but on a 4-hour gig at Diamonds, they're going to throw in some amazing, Zeppelin and, all kinds of really cool covers. But these guys, if I have anything to do with it, which I will, they'll be on every big festival in the next year or so.
And this is what I love about Tyra, that it's not like must be original, deep, whatever. It's just like about the music.
Yeah.
And if it's good
Like, you
music,
play cool
Tyra's
music.
on. So it doesn't matter if it's a
should be
cover.
about- right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a cover or if it's a deep, dark, like soulful, secret dirge. Like it's just about the music, and that's what's great about
Absolutely.
Tyra.
I do think it's healthy. I have no problems with, bands doing the cover thing, because the truth is that's
They're great
they're catering to a lot of you find the right song that
I can sing Dancing
right.
Queen all night long. It's
Okay.
a great song.
I do think though it would be kind of cool to show some of that creativity that you might have and insert an original every
That's what you. Yeah.
you should. To me, that's,
I mean,
Thanks for saying that.
Weezer just put out a full
Cover
flipping
or-
cover,
yeah,
and they're amazing.
I
Like
figured
they
that's
did
why you were in
Toto.
teal.
and-
yeah, two. I think two
Was that
total
Toto?
songs on there. So yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
and then I can tell you that. Have you ever heard of Abby the Spoon Lady? Okay, they did a PBS documentary
right.
about her, and she's from North Carolina. She's coming to the Burl, and so I took a chance and basically emailed her and was just like, she has about 500,000 social media followers, documentary about her and everything. She's been, she's sold out every venue she's ever played in the last 8 months.
Are you all rubbing shoulders now?
Yes.
I'm not.
So I took a chance and emailed her, because I've been kind of managing this band called 10 Whiskey Sisters. And I said, they're so aligned musically. And I emailed her, and I played her the music, and we've been corresponding back and forth about a dozen times. And she said, I would love to have them open for me. And so I've got this band, 10 Whiskey Sisters, who's
Very
going to be
cool.
playing at the Burl. So it's just like little things like
Right.
that are my wins.
Right.
You
And this
know?
is why I tell Tyra she needs to unlist her website, because right now she's going to have 4 million emails from fans in Louisville wanting Tyra to work on their career.
But I'm just one of those girls that's like, I don't care about, like, if you open the door this much, I'll kick it in, like I'll karate chop it in.
I know.
And be like, hello.
Even
it's
when the
great.
chain's on the door. you'll-
Exactly. I'll bust it
I know.
in, like, third whatever felony.
You're great for Louisville.
I know. I love Louisville.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. I wanted to bring this up. This was the infamous
Oh, child.
post.
Hold me back.
The
Hold me back.
dude.
Kevin.
His 12-point
Kevin
list
Child.
on the
Oh,
how to
God.
be a beautiful woman.
Is that-
No, it's how to be a beautiful. Not
How.
that he's looking. These
That's
are
really
what
great.
he's looking for. He is giving advice
To women, how to get a man.
I love it when people tell
Got
us
to get
stuff.
the man.
I'm gonna rattle them off,
Yeah,
and then
please do.
you can chime in after I'm done.
Oh, John.
Right. Be thin. Be able to cook. Have long hair. Yeah. I'll actually.
I'm like
I'm partial to
2
long
out of
hair.
3.
Short hair.
I had a mohawk when I was a junior in high school, child.
You did
I have
the
a long
punk
hair
thing,
because
too.
it's easy. People say they should cut it because of that.
Wear makeup.
No.
Be feminine. Be graceful. Be sensual. Shave. And then
I don't think she shaved and, like, look at his hairy legs.
Go ahead.
At least 10 years.
And
She's a hippie girl.
And then in parens, it's should without saying. And that's after the shave part.
Like,
be
oh my God.
Be fashionable. Wear pink and feminine colors. Love men.
But don't,
And-
these are
and-
so subjective.
I did say
And-
earlier that I loved men.
And listen to me.
What?
You have to
What?
listen to men.
That's the last one.
Men have a lot of important things to
That's
say.
certainly.
They need to explain a lot of things to us.
I know. They
I know.
mansplain so well
How
to
do I
me.
talk into this microphone again?
I don't
Can you tell me?
know.
I'm-
Hello.
I have not
One,
gone
two.
deep enough to to figure out if
But
this is
I bet the
what-
comments are
Did you look
was
at the
he-
comments
well,
on
I know
that?
the comments, but I don't know. Was he 100% being serious, or was he doing it for a reaction?
No. Did you notice how he took pictures, selfies of himself, and he was like, here's what a real man looks like, and girls, see him, look at him right there.
Yeah.
He's taking
I missed this
selfies,
one.
and
So this is Jesus. This is Jesus in 2019.
yeah.
Wow.
He's
That's what I don't
sensual
get.
Jesus.
I don't get that it's 2019 and we're still having this conversation. Like, I didn't get it when it was 2018, but I figured at least by now.
You know
like,
what?
we
A lot
screamed-
of those things, I think women. It's not like you have to be those things in order to get a man, but those are characteristics where to be sensual. I mean, like with my guy,
Yeah.
but like long hair. I've seen some super hot. Like, have you ever seen the band Molly's Midnight Villains?
No,
I
what
would
a great name.
totally fuck that girl. Okay, look her up right now.
It
She's
took
got
until
like
the end of the show
I
to get a
can't
good
really-
F-bomb.
she.
Physical one at that. too.
She is the hot, and she's got like super short hair. It's like faux hawk with the like, but she's an incredible musician, and I've dirty danced with her at Third Street Dive. Wait,
what?
I got kicked out of Third Street Dive that night at my own.
For why? Not for the
God,
dance
it was
part.
oh God, the president of Toys for Tots is going to kill me. That was one of the events that I just did as Toys for Tots.
Don't you wonder
There?
every week?
in December?
Not at Third Street Dive.
No,
very
we
specific.
did
I know,
it.
yeah.
We
I
did it.
actually like
We
that
did it
place.
at the Omni, and there was 1,200 people, and it went off without a hitch. And I booked the band and helped with the event and everything. And then afterwards, I said I'd love to have. I called the manager of Third Street Dive and said I'd love to have an after party here for about 50 people. And then I booked. 10 Whiskey Sisters was there that night, one of my bands, and so I brought a bunch of people there just to showcase them. And then proceeded to get kicked out of my own party there for calling the. Actually, I called myself a douche, and he thought I called him a douche. The bouncer guy, and he's like, "You're out," and I'm like, "For what?" And he said, "For calling me a douche." I said, "No, I called myself a douche, but you're kind of acting like a douche." And he goes, "That's out." So he kicked me out of the bar. So yeah.
Tyra available for representation.
I know. And the 10 Whiskey Sisters are so badass. They're like, "Oh my God, our manager just got kicked out of her own party."
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
TwistedTalent.net.
I know,
everybody.
Twisted Talent.
Don't really. Seriously, you're going to get 400 emails from people wanting to represent you. And this is where you're going to go unlisted. And I'm going to say, see, Tyra, everybody wants a booking agent. You don't need
Who
them.
gets
They
kicked
need
out
you.
of their own party?
Exactly. I like that.
Thank you for having us.
Ladies, you came on and you killed it.
Thank
I know
you.
this is going to be a recurring thing because I do, again, we need obviously more advocates of the music scene.
Yeah, amen.
And
And more
So-
incredible musicians who are
That
women,
too.
who happen to be
yeah.
women.
And
Thank you.
and for what is, I will do my part to help promote.
you, Kevin.
Whatever.
Seriously.
Because,
Love you.
I just short, real quick. Just give everybody social media. Where can people find you? And
Yeah, I'm
all
at
this-
Brigid Kaelin. That's BRIGID, spelled weird. KAELIN. On pretty much everywhere. BrigidKaelin.com/Brigid Kaelin Facebook. Just say hi.
Twisted Talent on Facebook and twistedtalent.net or Tyra at twistedtalent.net. So
I love the Instagram, the Facebook. What are you on? What's your favorite site?
I have a 16-year-old daughter who runs all of my Instagram and Twitter.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's
I call
cool.
her my social media director
Cool.
because she's the only one who can figure it out for
Yeah,
me.
she likes the Instagram. You like the Facebook.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
the Twitter myself. And
Yeah.
the Instagram. Anyway, say hi. We
Say-
love that stuff.
Good stuff.
And by the way, the reason I'm wearing a hat is because I'm so gross.
You
today.
don't have to tell people
No,
that.
I'm super gross
Stop,
today.
Stop, Tyra. I'm Brigid Kaelin. Sorry, I grabbed your boob. I'm Tyra's
Totally getting to
management.
second base with me.
I didn't
no.
mean to. I know, and I kissed you earlier.
the
too.
honor was mine.
Thank
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah,
You're
thanks
so
much.
sweet to ask
we'll,
us, Con.
We'll definitely do it again.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.